All right, folks, it's a 7.5 point spread for this game on Saturday between Boston College and Rutgers. On today's show, I'm going to tell you why that spread doesn't matter. BC should win this game easily. All of this and more on today's Locked On Boston College.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, folks, Locked On Boston College here. I am your host, AJ Black. Thank you for making Locked On BC your first listen every day and making us your team every day here on the Locked On Network. On today's show, we're going to look at some reasons why I think BC is going to easily walk away with a win on Saturday, and I'll give you some of my explanations. So let's kick it off. Let's get into this. Let's get into why the Eagles should easily beat Rutgers. First of all, so going into this game, you listen to the Rutgers fans, and there's many of them out there that have been saying over and over again, Max Melton is going to stop Zay Flowers. Max Melton is going to take him out of the game, and once Zay Flowers is out of the game, good luck, Boston College, because our defense is going to smoke you. And they've got, and to be fair, Rutgers has returned quite a bit of talent on that defensive backfield. It's the strength of this Rutgers team. However, if you're under the belief that Melton can single-handedly shut down Zay Flowers, I have some rude awakening for you. Now, Melton is only a sophomore, so he can get better. But if you're basing it off of what he did last year, there's a few things I kind of want to go over. First of all, if you look at who Rutgers played in 2021, they played basically a team and a half that could actually throw the football. And that would be Wake Forest in the bowl game and Maryland, who had Tua's brother. I'm screwing up his name. So you look at the rest of the teams that they played against, and it's a murderer's row of bad passing teams. Temple, Syracuse, Delaware, Northwestern, Illinois, Wisconsin, they're not that bad. Indiana, Penn State, and then you had Maryland and Wake Forest. So the last two games were probably the toughest games that he played against. And guess where his lowest scores came against? Good passing teams. His pro football focus score against Maryland and his pro football score against Wake Forest were really bad. He had good score. Like the only good scores that Melton had all year were against Temple in the opener and Syracuse in week 2. And neither, like Syracuse's offense, as we saw last year, was predicated on the ability to run the football. He didn't have to do all that much because Syracuse couldn't throw the football. Same thing with Temple. So my thought here, when I look at the matchup, I look at a kid who is talented, but you need an elite cornerback to slow down Zay Flowers. You need to get a guy out there that can absolutely take him out on an island. And I don't think Max Melton is that guy. He's good. He's going to become a very good cornerback, but is he good enough to stop an electric playmaker like Zay? I don't think so. So I think those big plays to Zay Flowers are going to be there. The BC is going to be able to move the ball with some explosives to their big wide receiver. And if they can do that, I think they're going to dictate the pace of this game. I think that when you're looking at a team like Rutgers, and we'll get into it in a minute, they're going to need big plays themselves. Because if you're going to go toe-to-toe with a BC, with a quarterback like Phil Jurkovec and a wide receiver like Zay Flowers, you need to be able to throw the ball. And I think at the end of the day, BC is going to be able to throw this football. Like I hear the Rutgers fans saying over and over again that BC is not going to be able to throw the football. You know, they may have a mistake here. You know, Jurkovec has in the past. He's made a few bad decisions. But I still think when you look at the end of the day, BC is going to be able to move the football both on the ground and in the air. And that they don't have enough to slow down Zay Flowers. And as I've said on this podcast multiple times, okay, so if Melton can't stop him himself, what does that mean, Wake Forest? I mean, what does that mean Rutgers has to do here? That means they have to go on an island and put out some safety help out there. And what does that do? That leaves things open up the middle for guys like George Takis or Jalen Gill or Jaden Williams. Those plays will be there. So, yeah, you may be able to figure something out to slow Zay down, but at the expense of other positions. And if you lose those other positions and the integrity of your defense, if Jurkovec can stand back there and throw the football to some of these other guys, then they're going to pick apart this defense, because then what do? Do you get beat by the home run ball with Flowers back there, or do you get picked apart by some of the other, wide receiver 2 through 4 and the tight end? So I just don't see Rutgers having an answer to him. I just don't see it on this roster. Now, you tell me the same question when they play Clemson or Notre Dame. Some of these teams that have, even Syracuse with Garrett Williams, a very, very good cornerback. I could see them shutting him down or slowing him down. But I don't see Rutgers doing it. I don't think they have enough there. You have Max Melton's grades. His total grade last year as a true freshman was a 63.2. Or sorry, as a sophomore, it's a 63.2. Compare that to like a Josh DeBerry, who's much higher than him. And, all the talk about him being an elite cornerback or a strong cornerback, I just don't see it. I don't see it yet. He doesn't have it. He's strongest against the run. His coverage grade is a 60.8. Okay. So I'm not bashing Rutgers here. The point of this episode is not to troll Rutgers fans. It's not to troll, the listeners of this, because believe me, I've talked about Rutgers for a couple weeks now, and every time I bring them up, my comment section blows up with Rutgers fans saying everything that I say is wrong and I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm pulling out stats here, folks. I am pulling out concrete examples of why I think what I think here. It's not just me guessing and gaming here, folks. This is not me just being a BC blowhard. Look at Pro Football Focus. Look at the teams that Rutgers played last year, and look at what Zay Flowers can do when he has a healthy Phil Jurkovec. Rutgers didn't play many guys like Zay Flowers last year. This will be a tough challenge for them, and I think BC could take advantage of that. In a moment, I'm going to give you another reason why I think BC should win this game easily. And I'll give you another one. I have two more, and the next one I think is going to be a really fun one to talk about. But first of all, BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. Hey, do you agree with me here? Do you think BC's an easy win at 7.5? Then go over to BetOnline. You can get that odds right now. Or if you say, "Hey, AJ, you're full of it. You don't know what you're talking about." Well, go to BetOnline and you can tell me that I'm wrong by putting some money where your mouth is, right? So BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports wagering information. From live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts, they have got you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts. This is Locked On Boston College. I'm your host, AJ Black, and we are now on Tuesday. Today is Jeff Hafley's Rutgers press conference. We also get the depth chart, which we'll talk about on Wednesday's show. We'll dive into any surprises, any shockers, or anything else. If there's nothing really to talk about, it might be a quick conversation. But the depth chart is always a fun one to talk about. So you're going to want to make sure you hit tomorrow's episode up on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. All right. So first segment, I talked about why Zay Flowers should easily be able to get some yards against Max Melton, and that it's not the challenge that Rutgers fans have made it out to be. Now, in our second segment, I'm going to tell you another reason why I think Boston College will win this. And it has to do with something that Mitch Wolf brought up on Monday's show, which is their quarterback situation. Now, on Monday, we got a little bit of breaking news here where Greg Schiano was very non-committal on which quarterback he's going to start. Now, there's Noah Vedral and Gavin Wimsatt, who are both quarterbacks that could play. He could play button. He could play either. I think that's the smartest move that Greg Schiano could make here, because it does make Jeff Hafley have to game plan for both quarterbacks. But at the end of the day, you have a quarterback and Noah Vedral, that I don't see as anywhere in the same ballpark as Phil Jurkovec. If you look at his stats from last year, if you pull up what Vedral did, I don't see him as being much of a challenge for Boston College's defense, especially that secondary. When you look at what you have back there with Josh DeBerry and Jaden Woodbay and in Elijah Jones, you look at what Vedral was able to do last year. He had a passing grade of 55.7 and but he's a runner. And that's going to be the biggest challenge for BC this year is running quarterbacks. It was a challenge for them last year. It's going to be a challenge for them this year. And that being said, if it's a one-dimensional running quarterback, that's very different than maybe what Malik Cunningham can do. Because if Vedral can't pass, you do what you do against running teams that can't throw. You stack the box, you put extra guys to spy him. You can set up your defense to stop that. And I think that's what BC needs to do here with Vedral. And that's a different thing for Wimsatt. Wimsatt I feel like Wimsatt has a higher ceiling than Vedral. But his grades last year were terrible. But again, he was a true freshman. So how do you grade that, right? He had a passing grade of 27.9. And again, he's mobile. So that begs the question, is Rutgers so one-dimensional that you can just cheat and take away what they do? You do the Bill Belichick thing where you say, okay, I'm not going to allow you to run the ball. Try to beat me in the air. If you do that, you win this game. And I think BC has enough talent in that secondary to do just that. You don't need to do anything complex in the back half. You stick Josh DeBerry on Taj Harris and you put your second best corner, if it's CJ Burton or Elijah Jones, on their second best wide receiver and you call it a day. Because if they can't beat you through the air, then why even respect it? Just go sell out for the run and let your guys do what they need to do in the back half. I think BC can do that. I think that BC has that talent in that secondary to make Rutgers' life heck. I see turnovers in this game. I think this is going to be a statement game for this defense. I think this will be a game where the defense really does show up and does some things to Rutgers that really causes confusion, causes pressure, but also causes turnovers. And I think that'll be a big key here. So at the end of the day, when you just line up the two quarterbacks and you line up the offensive weapons between BC and Rutgers, it's not even close, right? You have an inexperienced redshirt freshman that's played like a game and a half, and a kid, Vedral, who's not, I would put probably near the bottom of the Big Ten, against Phil Jurkovec, who, if you're going to use last year's comparison, which is complete bogus. You can't do that. But when he's healthy, is one of the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks in the ACC. That is advantage Boston College all the time. And that's not me being a hog. That's just me being real here, folks. Right. So I like that as another reason why BC is going to win this game. And, but I do respect what Shiano is doing here because it's not going to make a huge difference, but you do whatever you can do to win games, and you make life as hard as you can for your opposition. So he's looking at his old, defensive backs coach and saying, I'm going to make this hard. You're going to have to deal with 2 different quarterbacks. We could put in one at any time, and good luck trying to figure that out. That is the best, that, when you have 2 guys that are not the best options, that's what you got to do. You got to try to see if you can do a little bit of magic and trickery to see if you can win a game. Now, in our final segment, I'm going to give you 2 weaknesses between the teams, but a reason why I think BC's weakness isn't as bad as Rutgers. All that in just a moment. Locked on Boston College, AJ Black here. So we're talking about why I think Boston College is going to win against Rutgers on Saturday. Again, this is a 12 o'clock start for the BC Eagles. They head on. They're in their own backyard at Chestnut Hill. It's a Labor Day weekend game, and a big one. This is the first big game, I think. I mean, it feels like since Virginia Tech in 2018, where the Eagles actually have a decent matchup to start the season. And that's awesome. I love that feeling. I do wish this was the one season that they did have Maine to start it off, just so they could figure out what they have on offensive line and get some of those wiggles out. But it is what it is, right? So going into this game, obviously the big question mark for the Eagles has to be the offensive line. You have 5 new starting offensive linemen. None of them are returners, and they have, I think, what was the stat? Like 136 snaps between all of them. A big question mark. And you talk to Rutgers folks, and you can read the fans and the internet commenters. That's all they talk about. Whoa, Boston College has no offensive line, so they're going to lose. Folks, don't get it twisted, okay? Rutgers has a poor offensive line as well. Their offensive line is a patchwork of transfers and fresh new faces too. So these guys are not, it's not like they're just bringing it, they're coming in with 3 or 4 returners and two new guys. I mean, their whole offensive line, I believe, all but maybe one are new faces. The big thing for me, when I look at this, there's 2 factors about the offensive line and why I give the edge to BC here. First of all, we talk about BC not having an offensive line, but they have talent there. It's not like they're throwing out 3 stars or kids that were under recruited and trying to hope that they could teach them up. It's not like you threw Elijah Krashnovic out there who just learned the football like 2 years ago. You got Ozzie Trapillo, a kid that's 6'8", a potential, as I've said before, scouts have said this is a kid that has the potential to become a first-round NFL draft pick. He gets his shot now. He's been there before. He's played a little bit, and he's had his snaps, and now he gets to play. Drew Kendall, 4-star recruit at center. He's, a lot of excitement about him. You get Finn Durstein, 4-star recruit, hasn't had a chance to play. He's got a chip on his shoulder. And then you have the question marks around him, like, Jack Conley, where is he going to play? And what about that other guard position? But as you see, the Eagles have some talent there. It's not like we're saying that they're going in and all the guys that are playing are huge liabilities. That's not it at all. These guys have the potential, and I like that. That being said, Rutgers, they have some guys that have played too. So it's not like they're brand new, but they're new to a new system. They're new to a new offense. That's a change. The other piece that I think is important about the offensive lines and why I give the edge to BC is I think BC's defensive line is going to play better than Rutgers. I like what BC has potential up front. When you look at the sacks, BC didn't do very well last year. Obviously, it was a big concern. They were 92nd in the country. Rutgers was 31st. That's pretty good. Again, they played against poor offense, poor passing defense, passing offenses, though. I like where Chibuzi Onwuka is going to bring for this defense. I think that will cause some problems. Rutgers has also graduated some of their defensive linemen, the guys that came up through their team that were, leaders in sacks. Their second leading sack guy, their fourth leading sack, 6 leading sacks, all gone. BC's bringing back almost their entire sack production and bringing in new guys too. So, again, this is a little bit of me being a honk here, but I'm going to say that BC has a little bit of an edge here. So this is where I'm at. This is my comments on the 7.5 point spread. On yesterday's show, Mitch, he had BC winning by 21. And the more that I sit with it, the more that I like BC's matchup here. It's a home game. It's, a very talented, multidimensional BC offense against a Rutgers offense that hasn't produced. And, as I said, their strengths, I just showed you why I think BC may have an edge there, because I don't think, you stop a guy like Zay Flowers. So that's my thoughts. Now, Rutgers fans who have all found my podcast, you can go into my comment section and tell me why I'm stupid. I'm okay with that. This is my podcast. This is what I have to say. Okay. So thank you all for listening. You can follow me on Twitter at AJBlack_BC and follow us on YouTube. If you're not already doing so, go to Locked On Boston College, hit that subscribe button and give us a follow. Thank you so much. We'll see you again soon. Take care.